Right, great. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the sprint number 5 demo and planning session for Project Meteor. With Tom out today, I'll be running the sprint planning, I guess. But yeah, so everyone, I believe, went through their cards on Friday and clicked everything as completed or said everything that was done. So it sounds to me like all of the work streams were able to complete their goals for last sprint. I definitely know that I believe we did for the team shooting star of getting the kind of polishing the Elira demo. But are there any updates from the other work streams that we want to give before going into the demos? The one demo that we do have that Tom sent to me on Friday, we can look at. I'm not exactly sure how to broadcast the video from my end, but we can figure it out.
Yes, so we also have a very small demo based on the goal that we achieved, but yeah, that's an update for us as well.
Okay, great. And yeah, our demo would just be looking at all the polished notebooks and demo content. So, I don't necessarily know if we need to go through it. But if that's the case, let me see if I can play Tom's demo for all of you. And I'm not sure if this will work if I just play it on my screen or if it's going to give horrible feedback, but I guess we can find out.
It's pretty for me. It's a bit tight to link in.
So this doesn't work. Stop.
You can't hear it?
No, it's the wrong way of sharing, I guess. So if you stop sharing and then you just share a tab and then share this tab, and then your audio will be broadcasted instead of forwarded via the local setup.
All right, perfect.
So just share a single tab, and Chrome should say that this is best for sharing videos and audio.
Demo with you what progress we've made on deploying something like Meteor POC.
Now just also mute yourself, first, maybe.
And where the inspiration from last week's demo got me this week for this workstream commit effort. So I took a look at Fredo's POC, got really excited by basically having something simple that can deploy certain manifests and maybe do something more with it. It was using Argo. I was thinking if I can make it maybe a bit more intelligent than submitting an Argo workflow. So that led me to think and decide on trying to build something like Meteor operator using operator SDK. So let me show it to you. It's also all the demos or the examples that I will be showing you are using operate first. This operator is running on top of operate first 0 cluster right now within the AirCoE Meteor namespace. So let me share my screen and show you what's this about. So I hope you can see my screen now. On Friday, today for me, I've created this repository, Meteor operator. As you can see, most of it is scaffolding created by operator SDK. And I've added some basic logic into it. It's consuming this kind of a resource. It's a Meteor kind. You pass it URL, reference, TTL, and maybe in the future some other stuff. And the operator does some reconcile on it, provisions additional resources based on this Meteor resource. You can run it interactively locally, as in a local debugging session in VS Code. If you want, you can run it via DLV manually in a debugging session, or you can run it without debugging locally. You can also deploy it via Operator SDK. There are certain bits that you need to change to get it basically to deploy your own image, your custom development image. So you need to build the container, push it to Quay, and then create an image stream here and basically point it here to the proper Quay repository or whatnot. There are certain limitations to it that I wasn't able to solve during this sprint. So that's something we can work on down the road. As I was saying, this, where we go? Here we are. AICOE Meteor, let me try to make it a bit bigger. Project on Zero Cluster. It's running a deployment of the Meteor operator. And again, this was actually run using this. This was achieved using these commands. So it's not going through Operator Hub. It's basically a deployment and uploading a custom resource and doing all this kind of stuff that you probably want to do when you're hacking things together, but you don't want to do it down the road. But that's for another topic. That's for another time. So this operator is running here. It's running proxy. It's running a manager that is basically watching the resources. Yeah. So here we have some log, reconcile errors. Yeah, there are certain situations it doesn't handle, for example, doesn't handle properly and cleanly, for example, deleting the Meteor resource right now. But that's not a problem for us, right? Let's try something. So let's grab this Meteor resource and create it. Again, passing URL, passing the reference, passing the TTL. These URL and reference are passed to Tekton pipeline. So whatever the Tekton pipeline does with those resources, that's up to it. We will be basically consuming some outputs from the Tekton pipelines. This is the Meteor resource. And as you can see, the Meteor got created and we got an image stream, we got pipeline runs initiated, we got a service for this Meteor, we got a road for this Meteor, and we got a deployment. This deployment road service is meant to serve the Jupyter book. And then we have this image stream here that is meant to enable Jupyter Hub spawning through this image stream, basically. So if you take a look at this image stream, once we resolve some of these warnings, but it's an OpenData Hub image. It has some of the annotations that we want in the image and things like that. So that's that. When we take a look once more at the Meteor, we have some conditions applied, and these are fetched from the resources. So we know that the deployment was reconciled, service was created, road was created, image stream was created, and we get status on 2 different pipelines that were initiating Jupyter Book and Jupyter Hub pipeline. And this is basically telling us that it can't get the pipeline. And why is that? Our Meteor here is initiating a pipeline run from a reference that is passing those parameters here. It's passing a pipeline reference named Jupyter Book, and this pipeline doesn't exist yet. So that's why Tekton is reporting it can't get the pipeline for pipeline run, and this is basically what we get as an error here. The idea behind all of this is that once we can operate through operators, we can have this tiny web UI that I've been showing last time, basically just sending API requests to Kubernetes, to OpenShift, creating, submitting a Meteor resource, and retrieving Meteor resource. So Kubernetes OpenShift can serve as our database for orders, Meteor orders, and can serve as the API and logic behind everything. So, and as you can see, the operator is reconciling those events. So that's basically it. Let me just show you what happens if I quickly delete this Meteor. Since we're setting own reference everywhere, all the pipeline runs, services, roads, and deployments that are connected to this Meteor are deleted as well. So we can get a clean table by just deleting a Meteor resource. All you need to understand what's behind this is within this repository, you have reconcilers for each of the type that we're watching and reconciling, and everything is tied together through the Meteor controller that is defining RBAC that is required for this operator, and is defining the reconcile logic, what happens when and how to get certain status. And that's one more thing that I would like to show you as well. I forgot initially. So once the operator reconciles something, it also puts some data into its status. So for example, for Jupyter Hub, Jupyter Book, we know where the image is located. We know the URL, which is the road host. And for Jupyter Hub, we know the image, and we know the image stream name that we can use for spawning through Jupyter Hub URL, for example. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you. And that's it. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and I'll answer your questions in a week or so, if you have any. Enjoy.
Cool.
Great. That was Tom's demo.
Since Frido or Harshad is here, maybe they can step in for answering questions. I have one or two. I'll just go ahead. This Jupyter Hub image stream, is that being picked up by an existing Jupyter Hub, meaning our Jupyter Hub that we run on the Zero cluster, or are we spawning a dedicated Jupyter Hub per Meteor deployment?
I think this the image which Tom was showing is the image which is for individual like the notebook images. So the image stream which he showed there is the skeleton of it, and it will have that content notebook or a simple notebook like minimal, or if you consider from AIOps, any of the OCP CLI notebook. So those images is what he was showing. And those images are needed when you're spawning from Jupyter Hub. So that's the
Okay.
image.
So the integration to Jupyter Hub is not done yet.
I mean, if Jupyter Hub is deployed and this component is also deployed in the same namespace, then it itself will get integrated by that label which he was pointing at. The label was called notebook-image equal to true. So that's the label which Jupyter Hub actually looks for. If any image stream has that label, then it automatically picks it in its drop-down menu. Or right now it's like the spawner page.
Cool. So it's all done by auto discovery via labels. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a great example of leveraging existing technology to prototype something rapidly. That's awesome. And as you said, or as Tom showed, it's an image stream, so we're not pushing any images to Quay or something, but they are all stored in the local OpenShift registry, I guess.
Yes, that's right. So the pipeline which we showed will build that image and push it to that image stream.
Cool. Do you know what he meant by this Jupyter Hub pipeline? Is that building the Jupyter notebook image?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So that's the pipeline which we showed last week demo. So these things will get integrated together, and the pipeline should build all these images.
Cool. Thanks, Harshad.
Sure.
Cool. Any other questions? Great. Hema, you said you also have a demo. Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay, so for this sprint, we were mainly looking at this issue number 50. So what we were trying to achieve for the sprint was setting up a Google Analytics for fetching metrics related to the web application that we want. And right now, as a POC, we were just setting it up with one of our fork of the Elira tutorial. So we have it set up for Shrey's Elira tutorial, which is basically hosted over here. And we also shared this link out for a bunch of you guys to just sort of click around so that we see some data flowing in. In the last sprint, we did mention that there were some issues with the different GA tags being used. So right now, Google Analytics has been updated to a newer version. So there's a tag that you need to sort of configure into your web application. Earlier, it was of UA format, and right now it's of G format. So for Jupyter Book, it was not working with this new G tag. There were some upstream issues, and we sort of were following up with that. It looks like it's been resolved. However, some folks replied back saying that it's still not working for Jupyter Books. So what we've done as a workaround till that's sort of figured out is using the older UA tag. So Google Analytics still allows you to play with the older tag as well. So right now, if you look at Google Analytics over here, we are using the Operate First account, thanks to Oindrilla, who sort of helped us figure out how to sort of configure all of this. So this is where we've sort of created a separate project for Meteor. And as you can see, we have like two different accounts or properties associated with this. One is like the old tag, and this is the newer tag. So right now we're just looking at this older tag, and we have added Shrey's fork as the repo link. And as you can see, it's sort of fetching data. So this is like based on what we've configured in the past 1 week or so, last 7 days, how are, the number of users, the number of sessions, things like that related to the web application itself. So we did try to create a dashboard within Google Analytics. However, there are some sort of workarounds for how you want to share them publicly. So you can actually create your custom dashboards, but it's a little different in how you can share it publicly. Apparently, everybody needs to be added to the account. There's no public shareable external URL where you can just have view access. So what we decided to go about this is using something called as Data Studio. So Data Studio is nothing but connecting all of Google web suites, basically. So it also lets you collect data from your Google Analytics and create the similar dashboards that we sort of see within this analytics interface. So for now, analytics is basically fetching all of our metrics, and you can sort of see these default things already populated. But if you want to create your custom dashboards, we went and sort of created this Google Data Studio dashboard, which can actually be sort of seen with everyone. So I'm gonna put it in chat for folks as well. So if you go over here to this dashboard, you should land up in this particular landing page. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So what we've done here is based on the metrics that we have defined over here in the repo. We have defined metrics sort of organized and categorized to different personas. So for Google Analytics, you can see here the data source for Google Analytics. Majority of the metrics are targeting the product owner persona, and some are also targeting like an analyst persona. For example, you want to know what's the session duration, you want to look at the bounce rate. From a product owner perspective, you're interested in how many new users are we acquiring over time, what are our daily, monthly active users, and so on. So these metrics are easily available in Google Analytics, and hence we went ahead and created the dashboards according to these persona identified metrics. And yeah, you can see that the dashboard is sort of split up into like 3 different sections. So the first is just a high level overview. You want to look at how many users we're having. So we have about 10 users in the past 1 week. So you can filter for a certain date range in this. For now, we've just set it to the last 7 days, but you can also play around with this and specify different date ranges, and it should refresh the data accordingly. So we see here under users and sessions, we're looking at the number of sessions per user, the number of new users we've got. In terms of the site health itself, we want to know what's the average session duration. So it's about 2 minutes and 55 seconds spent in a session. What's the bounce rate? So bounce rate is basically the percentage of users who visited your site just once and left. So a lower value basically indicates that you have a more engaged user interaction. So obviously these are just based on Shrey's fork of the website. So, it's just very limited data that we have, but this should basically reflect once we have the full-fledged web application. These are the sort of metrics that should be important for us to sort of track and understand how people are interacting with the web application itself. So when it comes to engagement, you're looking at new users over time. So again, we're looking at a 7-day window. The orange line is a trend line, and the blue line basically is just your data points. So it's showing you how many new users we had in a certain day. And we see here that it's sort of growing from 0 to 10. Earlier, it was just like 3 or 4. It was just me, Shreya, Kamcha, and Isabel populating these numbers. But since we circulated the link, we sort of got more users. Thanks for you guys to clicking it around. And then similarly, we have like active users over time again. We have a trend line as well as the actual data points being listed here. And then we come to the user interaction. So here we're concerned with based on the different pages we have in our tutorial, like we have these individual pages within the website, right? So we want to look at the different views per page. So here we have like a pie chart distributing this, giving us an idea of 24% of the views were in the README page, followed by 16% of the views were probably in like the setting up the environment phase, and so on. As and when we have more and more users, these sort of indicate to us where is the majority of our users focusing in the tutorial. And then we have this fancy little graph on the right here, which is like a user by region. This is just like a geographical distribution of our users. That is how, yes, so Francesco, you're the only one from Italy over here. But this is just giving us an indication of where our users are and how wide we're able to sort of gauge our audience across. And the cool thing about this is you can actually drill down or drill up on this map. So here, if you do like a drill up from country to city, it goes further into looking at individual cities themselves. So if you look at Italy, it's showing Milan, the number of sessions were 1. You can also toggle different metrics. So instead of the sessions in these regions, I want to look at the users in these regions. And yeah, so it's showing us there was 1 user here. And then we have about different users populated around the US. So you can sort of drill in the map as well. And yeah, that's pretty much what we were playing around with and getting some metrics and visualizing this. And hopefully now that we have the Meteor shower deployed on Operate First that Tom showed us, we can actually sync this up with that. And the data should reflect based on the application we now have deployed. So that's what we were able to do as part of the telescope workstream. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Did you look into exporting the data from Google Analytics or accessing it externally?
No, we did not look at it, accessing it externally. We thought we would do that as a next step. So something like, you mean within a Jupyter notebook, or is that what you're sort? Yeah. So we have that as well as in our mind, but we started working with just understanding the data, and then we will work on to having it externally accessible as well.
Cool. Maybe you can take a detour around Trino. Trino can access Google Sheets, and maybe Google Analytics can export to Google Sheets, which is kind of scary, but maybe.
Yep, we will look into that.
So what would be the point of getting analytics data in a Jupyter notebook? Do we want to do analysis on top of that? Hema, Marcel, anyone?
I think more from like just instead of being dependent on just visualizations through these tools, if somebody is coming from a different perspective and just wants to take a peek at these data, I think then externally having it in a notebook would be of useful. But I'm not sure if visualization would fit the need there, but it's more of just understanding the data itself.
Yeah, and making correlations. So if you want to correlate build times with, I don't know, user bounce rates, you can't do that because it's locked in a silo. So that's the whole aim at this work stream, to correlate data across different data sources.
Makes sense. So analysis part, right?
Cool, great. And then, yes, so for the shooting star, I guess we don't have like a proper demo, but we did spend a bit of time considering what would be the kind of best way to organize the content for the Elira tutorial, and decided that we should keep it pretty much as close in as it is. And we went through and we made a number of changes to pretty much every document within there, just to make it read better and sound good. We also did some fixes to make sure that the like all the automation flags worked well, and that we're actually able to pass data from one level or like one step in the pipeline to the other. So all of those updates have been made, and the tutorial should be considered polished. Cool. So, any questions about the tutorial or anything? Great. Cool. So then for this upcoming sprint, does anybody have a defined sprint goal for their work stream that they want to share with the group?
Do you want to share the project board again?
Oh, am I not sharing? I'm not sharing. No. Sorry. Thank you. All right, so do we have goals that we want to work on this sprint? I think one of the things that we were thinking of, particularly for Shooting Star, is that the demo is polished. I think there's maybe additional like working to do on that kind of stuff, but until there's additional maybe content made or something, that there's not a ton for the Shooting Star group to do, so that we could like divide and help out on the other work streams, if that makes sense for everyone.
Or can you record a like a recorded version of the Elira tutorial as if I was doing a workshop, or as if I were an anonymous person executing it, and then like collect X number of gaps, or I don't know how to say, friction points, basically to create a backlog of items that could be worked on in terms of the tutorial.
Yeah, we can do that.
But there was this idea of switching to a easier or less complex tutorials, and I mean that's certainly a point for some reason. So maybe just highlighting some of the complex or some of the complexity, why it is complex, because maybe you cannot just do an easy fork, maybe you cannot just easily execute a cell or whatnot. So I want to understand why this tutorial is too complex, and probably the easiest way is to just run through it and then record all the friction points with a complexity KPI. I don't know.
Yeah, we can do this. So you want it like, so I'm just clear, like the recording would not be to be like published necessarily, but just to get the friction points collected.
Yeah, maybe you just do a recording and then share it with the team Shooting Star and see where are some friction points, and then you can highlight them at the time stamp of that recording and explain why it doesn't work.
Yep, sure.
In the end, it's just setting aside some time, do it without anticipating what you already know, like maybe do it in the evening with after 2 bottles of wine, and then just see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
For the telescope work stream, since last sprint, we sort of focused on Google Analytics as a data source for like metric purposes. We were thinking this sprint, since we also have something now already deployed, we thought we can start looking into Prometheus as the data source next, and getting all the configurations in place for this deployed application that we have, and make sure we have the right Prometheus metrics monitoring it. So that's what we want to look at this sprint.
Okay.
I guess for team comment, we can put integration of build pipelines and the deployment, Argo deployment to the Meteor project, the work which Tom has done. We'll just try to integrate it with the work which we showed last week, the work which was shown by Fido and and the build pipeline which was shown by me. So we'll try to integrate them and deploy it onto the operate first. So I think that would be a big task itself.
Okay. Great. And so does anybody have issues, this existing issues to meet any of these goals? This setup and collect metrics, is this?
So that is actually like more of an epic for what we've been doing so far. But yeah, that's why that issue is just sort of overarching the other issues. But for this sprint, we do have, I think we have about 2 issues in the to-do column all the way at the bottom, which we will be pulling on.
Okay, great. And these Comet tagged cards, Harsha, these represent what you guys are going to be doing this sprint?
Yes, that does the one trigger the build.
Okay, cool. Then
And also the one above it, yeah. So yeah, everything.
all right.
So regarding this, make a recording of a demo. Francesco posted an issue number 59 in the chat. So he just came up with the idea of targeting the DevConf US workshop, maybe as a deadline, and maybe you use that as a backdrop for making a recording, or like an idea for making a recording, because those participants of that workshop maybe will use the Meteor UI or will share an environment. Maybe, let's just guess, they use the UI being dropped into the Jupyter book and also get access to the notebook environment. So just treat it as somebody who has never heard of this stuff before and runs through this as a workshop. So the output would not just be the recording, but actually see where we have these friction points. Because I'm not sure if I would watch the recording. It depends on the time, right? So if you can fast forward in 10 minutes, maybe I do it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Anything else anybody wants to go over, share, discuss for this sprint planning meeting? All right. Well, in that case, can get off the phone 10 minutes early. All right, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks for running the meeting, Michael. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.